have to leave for another hearing.
We'll just wait till you sit down and we'll ask you to testify. Sir.
My name is Ben Baines, and I started smoking at the age
Sir, please speak into the microphone.
My name is Ben Baines, and I started smoking at the age of 13. By my freshman year of college, I was smoking a pack and a half a day, and this was closer to 2 packs if I was drinking. Nearly 2 years ago, I bought an electronic cigarette after reading about them online, and within the first week, I stopped smoking tobacco cigarettes altogether. Electronic cigarettes are perhaps the first technological development that stands a very good chance of eliminating tobacco usage completely. In recent years, the portion of the U.S. population who smokes has stagnated, showing that the current methods of encouraging people to quit are no longer working. These are people who know full well the risks and adverse health effects that come with smoking, yet they choose to smoke anyway. Rather than continuing to push abstinence only in the form of quit or die, it may be time to embrace a harm reduction model. In fact, cigarette sales this year were down from last year compared to previous years, and I do not think it is a coincidence that the electronic cigarettes have gained huge popularity in the same year. The majority of harm that comes from smoking is from the smoke itself, not nicotine. Nicotine is not the Antichrist, and in fact, it carries about the same level of addiction, and its effects on the body and mind are very similar to that of caffeine. In fact, 2 drugs, one totally socially acceptable, I would venture to guess that most people in this room have had at least 1 cup of coffee today, and the other vilified by anti-smoking groups are very similar on the biochemical level. Because Quit or Die is showing that it has run its course and nicotine usage is not a major public health concern, it is time we encourage those who remain smokers to switch to vaping. We should be doing everything in our power to encourage them to switch to vaping, especially since smoking kills millions of Americans each year and is the #1 cause of preventable death in the nation. For this reason, electronic cigarettes should not be included in existing indoor smoking bans. To include them would send a message to the general public that electronic cigarettes carry the same risks and adverse health effects as smoking does. This is simply not true. While it is a valid point that electronic cigarettes have not been around long enough to have long-term data on their effects, it can be said with great certainty that any potential risks involved with their use are many orders of magnitude less than those risks that we know tobacco cigarettes carry. To keep this information from the public or to perpetuate misinformation about electronic cigarettes is grossly irresponsible and will directly contribute to the deaths of many of your constituents. Furthermore, indoor smoking bans are accepted on the basis of the negative impact smoking has on the health of the smoker and those around them. These risks are not present with electronic cigarettes, and therefore there is no health or scientific basis for including electronic cigarettes in smoking bans. The sole reason for including them in smoking bans is one based on an ideological belief that it is wrong for people to appear to be smoking. However, as I have already discussed, this is silly and will only serve to dissuade many smokers from making the switch to relatively harmless vapor products. In fact, the ingredients in e-liquid or nicotine solution used are, with the exception of nicotine and flavor, the exact same chemicals used in commercial fog machines and asthma inhalers, which have been extensively studied and deemed safe to inhale. As a respectful adult, I understand that it is not appropriate to use my electronic cigarette everywhere I please, and for this reason I completely support individual establishments that choose to disallow vaping on their premises, but there is no need for a citywide ban on their usage. The vaping community is large and tight-knit. We support each other daily and is in some ways similar to the support found within the rooms of AA and NA. If our lives were not affected in an incredibly positive way, we would not be here today taking away time from our work and studies to speak to you on an issue that is very close to our hearts and our lungs for that matter. Also, while I fully support regulation that disallows the sale of electronic cigarettes to minors, I find the proposed signage highly questionable. The specific objection that I have is to the wordage labeling vapor products as electronic smoking devices. As previously stated, electronic cigarettes must not be associated with the evils of smoking in any way. Many of us are even opposed to them being called electronic cigarettes in the first place. Furthermore, it is misleading to refer to electronic cigarettes as unauthorized nicotine delivery products. It is simply unnecessary and even offensive. A much better proposed sign would say something along the lines of electronic nicotine devices, as that's what they are, a method of nicotine ingestion, not a device for smoking. We vape, we do not smoke. So for these reasons, I urge you to vote against the proposed bills 140096 and 140095. My council members, today you have the opportunity to stand in the way of the current trend of handing smokers out to drive and vilifying these devices that stand a chance at the first time ever to do away with smoking. And I urge you to embrace this wonderful harm reduction solution. It would be hypocritical not to, especially in a city with one of the highest smoking rates in the country, and a city that embraces harm reduction strategies when it comes to IV drug usage in the form of needle exchanges. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out this afternoon to testify. And though we may not always be on the same page, we appreciate all of you for taking time out to come and let your voices be heard. We appreciate that. Thank you. Next.
Chairwoman and distinguished members of the Philadelphia Health Committee, my name is Gregory Conley. 3.5 years ago, after trying and failing to quit smoking multiple times with the kinds of methods recommended by the Philadelphia Department of Health, the nicotine gum, lozenge, patch, etc., I finally managed to quit smoking with the use of a smoke-free, tobacco-free electronic cigarette. And I've spent the last 3.5 years trying to encourage state and local legislatures to embrace policies that recognize that electronic cigarettes and all smoke-free nicotine products, including the gum, patch, and lozenge, are all 98 to 99% less hazardous than smoking, and that none of these products should be banned, and it is a ban, by cities in places where smoking is banned. In regard, and I am here today, I should add, speaking on behalf of the National Vapers Club, a nonprofit that funds research on e-cigarettes as well as representing e-cigarette consumers, and I'm here as a volunteer. In regards to youth access, no one opposes banning the sale of electronic cigarettes to minors. On that note, it should be noted that the health commissioner, in his testimony, did not refer to electronic cigarettes as electronic smoking devices. Over and over again, he accurately called them by their most common name, electronic cigarettes or e-cigarettes. So why does this bill deceitfully refer to electronic cigarettes as electronic smoking devices? As pointed out by Bill Gottschall in his testimony, if SB 1055 passes the Pennsylvania legislature, which it likely is, and it will not be amended to say electronic smoking devices, business owners will be required to post 2 signs in the city of Philadelphia. One sign mandated by the Pennsylvania government saying you can't sell alternative nicotine products, cigarettes, and tobacco products to minors, and a whole separate sign from the Philadelphia Department of Health saying you can't sell cigarettes, tobacco products, electronic smoking devices, and whatever unapproved nicotine delivery products are to minors. This is utterly ridiculous. And for what? To falsely call a product that does not create smoking? Doesn't make sense. Additionally, the Commissioner of Health spent a lot of time talking about how individual businesses have banned e-cigarette use. This is exactly how policy on e-cigarette use should be set. Let's make it clear. Business owners are free to ban e-cigarette use, and all the people here today respect that. However, many businesses don't, particularly bars. In New York City, the Hospitality Association showed up and testified against the indoor usage ban because they wisely realized that when you have a lot of neighbors complaining that the drunks at your bar are outside smoking cigarettes and screaming and yelling at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, that it's vastly preferable to have people inside using an e-cigarette rather than outside smoking and littering. I'd also love to know what your enforcement plan is for this law. I mean, right outside the doors today, there are giant signs on every door saying no smoking within 20 feet of the door. Who was smoking 2 feet away from the door today? One of your security guards. That's supposedly tasked with keeping people from smoking within 20 feet of the door. If you can't enforce your own smoke-free policy, how in the world do you expect to enforce an e-cigarette policy? Just to make a point, I sat in the back there and I put my device up to my lips about 20, 25 times during the course of this hearing. If this law passed, would one of those men in the back come up and tell me, sorry, even though you're not releasing visible vapor, even though we cannot tell if you are pressing the button and inhaling something, you have to stop. Am I going to be subject to a fine? And how in the world are you going to prove that in the court of law that I actually use my electronic cigarette? Multiple jurisdictions have banned e-cigarette use for smoking ban, and no ticket. There is no record of any enforcement in a bar, restaurant, office, etc. And meanwhile, being from New Jersey, where e-cigarette use is banned, I can tell you confidently that e-cigarette use is rampant all around New Jersey. I proudly tell people when I meet them that our vapors, by the way, it's banned indoors, but 99% of the population is aware. And of the 1% that is, I don't know, maybe 0.1% actually would complain if they saw it. And as somebody who comes to Philadelphia about once a week, usually this time of year on cold winter nights, I have no plans to step outside into 10-degree weather to use this. I will just sit and I will puff and I will hold my breath and nothing will come out, and I'd love to be the test case in court. Most importantly, at a bare minimum, you should allow businesses to go through the same waiver process that businesses that allowed smoking were given when the Philadelphia City Council banned smoking in clubs and bars, I believe 10 years ago or less. It's not fair that you're giving a product that presents no risk to bystanders, or even by the admittance of the sponsor, less risk to bystanders. It is completely unfair that you gave more favorable treatment as a city council to bars and clubs that allowed cigarettes by allowing them to apply through a waiver process than you are for e-cigarettes. No bar, restaurant, office that wants to allow e-cigarette use will be allowed under this bill, but when you banned smoking, you did allow bars and clubs to apply for an exemption. So please, tell me why we can't enact that same process for bars and restaurants currently existing that wish to allow e-cigarette use in their establishment. And before I close, Councilman Greenlee, I interacted with you on Twitter last night, and I told you that when I spoke to you in person, I would say that you or the staff handling your Twitter account were 100% wrong when you stated that the passionate, dedicated e-cigarette users that were tweeting at you were, in your own words, paid spam bots. I keep my promises, so Councilman Greenlee, you were incorrect. Those are passionate people who care about vaping and care about saving people's lives by encouraging them to use a smoke-free product. So, in conclusion, 10 years ago, or however long, when the City Council banned smoking, you allowed bars, restaurants to apply for a waiver to continue to allow smoking. And now, when you're dealing with a product that creates no smoke, that you are planning on deceptively defining as smoking, you're not giving that process. So please, don't rush this bill out of committee. Let it sit, let it simmer, and actually look at some of the science. And as for the youth access bill, please let that sit, even if only for a week, and fix the incorrect, misleading definitions that have no place in law. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
And I think it's unfortunate that I believe you're going to have someone from the Department of Health up and not have anyone to rebut anything that they're saying. But have a great day. Thank you for holding this hearing.
I don't think we're having that, but thank you. Is there anybody else here to testify on this bill? Councilman
again, I'm not trying to play semantics. These are regulations regulating a product that is not regulated at all. Someone said about appearance, that we're mostly concerned about appearance. Maybe that was mentioned once. Most of us, the witnesses and myself, all said our main concern was that we do not know what's in this product. We're not, there's conflicting testimony about potential harm, and all we're saying is that we're erring on the side of caution, and if people want to use this product, they should not do it in the public spaces. And we don't want people to smoke, and if this is the way they can quit smoking, we certainly say go ahead and do it. So we're never, and I've never said, I don't think anybody, that we equate this with smoking. Our concern is that we don't know about that. And I could go on, but I'm just, and also, if you have a waiver, if a establishment has a waiver to allow smoking, they're also allowed to use the electronic cigarettes in those places. And with that, Madam Chair, as we move to the meeting, I hope the committee sees fit to move these bills forward. Thank you very much.
Let me recognize Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, who's a member of this committee, and recognize Councilwoman Lionel Reynolds Brown, who is at her seat president on this committee, who has come into the testimony. We've now adjourned our public hearing and go into the public meeting. I call on Councilman Gregory for call up bill 140095.
Okay, first of all, Madam President, Madam Chair, I want to move an amendment to bill number 140095. That amendment, which has been circulated, will make the effective date of this ordinance July 1st, 2014. And I move the adoption of that amendment.
Has been moved and seconded that we accept the amendment for bill 140095. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposition? There being none, the amendment is passed. Now I call on Councilman Greenlee to call up bill 140095 as amended to be reported out of the committee with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the bill number 140095 as amended be reported out as committee with a favorable recommendation, and the rules of council be suspended to allow for first reading at our next session of council.
Thank you. It has been moved that bill 140095 as amended be reported out of this committee with a favorable recommendation and a request that council's rules be suspended so this bill can be placed on the council's next session. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposition? There being none, the bill is motion's carried. Now I call on Councilman Greenlee for bill 140096.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that bill number 140096 be reported out as committee with a favorable recommendation, and the rules of council be suspended to allow for first reading at our next session of council.
It has been moved and properly seconded that bill 140096 that we accept the amendment. Okay. I'm sorry. That bill 140096 be reported out of committee with a favorable recommendation, and that the rules be suspended so this bill can be heard in council's next session. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposition? There being none, the bill motion's carried. Thank you very much. This bill will be called up in council's next session.